Welcome to another episode of Braggin' About Business, sponsored by Cowboy Trail Brewery. Cheers to the West. Public service announcement. The Bragg Creek area is home to a lot of acreages. And with acreages comes a necessity to country life, septic systems. Everybody poops. And when you want to send those grumpies packing with the royal flush, you want everything to go smoothly. Well, we have the expert in the house this week, Sam Beaudoin of Foothills Septic. We talk about how to treat your septic system right, things to avoid, and perhaps a few things you didn't know about this essential service to our community. Enjoy. Welcome, Sam, to Bragg About Business.
Thanks for having me.
Right on. Well, I've been looking forward to having you on for some time, so this is great.
Yeah, we started, April maybe we were chatting?
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, sorry it took so long.
No, hey, everybody's busy. That's good to be busy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. So first question for you, do you believe in Bigfoot?
Oh, geez. Toss up. It depends on the day, I guess. Sometimes you see tracks you don't recognize, and then all of a sudden I'm a believer again. Yeah.
Yeah, because you live on an acreage too.
Yeah, that's right.
You got lots of land.
Yeah, it's fun. I hope I don't run into Bigfoot. We've seen a bear. I've yet to see a cougar, which is actually probably a good thing. But most ungulates I think we've seen.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
So Foothills Septic.
Yeah.
How did it all come about?
Oh, geez. Well, I used to live in Revelstoke, and our septic system there failed. I looked at various options, and I really wasn't impressed with any of them. Things seemed just insanely expensive. Like the cost for the right to flush your toilet, outrageous.
Exactly.
So at the time, I was a field engineer for a large commercial contractor, and I figured myself somewhat capable, rented a small excavator and just started digging. I figured I had absolutely nothing to lose. Like, my system's pooched, right? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Worst case, I make a hole and the contractor can benefit from that hole.
Exactly.
I ended up patching the system back together the way it had been built 50 years prior with the help of a neighbor. And they were pretty simple back then. And so I came out of the experience thinking, holy moly, these septic guys are making all sorts of money and these things are pretty easy. So then we moved to Alberta, fast forward a little bit, and I was intrigued by what it would look like to build these systems for a living, at first as a side hustle. And so I looked into the certification, got certified to design these systems. And I was thinking I'll do like one of these once in a while. Before the show, we were chatting about building mountain bike trails at our place. It seemed like a good way to write off a really crappy little mini excavator. And I started doing that, and then designs turned into service calls turned into, hey, I can't find a contractor. Could you please help me install? And so I agreed eventually to install some friends of a friend's septic system. I lost so much money on that job because I was still thinking, man, like, these septic systems are way too expensive. There's no way they should cost this much. But then once you go through the paces and actually install it, you tally up your costs, and it is just, there's a lot involved, right? Yeah. That was a lesson learned. Initially, I didn't want to install more systems, but someone else was just begging because they couldn't find a contractor and they needed a septic system before winter. Theirs had completely failed.
Yeah, what do you do?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, what the heck? Let's give it a try. Let's approach it a little bit differently. Let's subcontract out the digging. And that one went well. I was a lot more intelligent with my numbers, which was good.
It's a learning curve. It's a learning experience.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. It's an expensive lesson to learn once, but as long as you learn it, it's a valuable one.
That's right.
So, and that one I learned a lot. And I also learned that you could not subcontract the excavation because it would be way too expensive for the customer. But from there, decided to go about it full time. So, invest in larger equipment, kind of went all in, hired an operator. That was a couple years ago. And since then, we've become a full service septic company.
You are full service. Yeah. So what exactly do you do? Like, what are all of the services you provide? I met you from just, pumping out our tank.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. That is one we do. We pump out tanks. We design systems. So on the front end, if you need a new system, whether it's a new house or you're replacing an existing one, we'll design. We will install the system. We will service the system as it goes on. So whether that's pump replacements, 10 years down the line, you burn out a pump, something like that, or just small service stuff, cleaning filters, etc., and then the ongoing pumping. So basically anything septic we're involved in. Okay. And then there's some kind of parallel stuff. Oftentimes, especially if you're building a house, if you're putting in a septic system, many people are looking to cisterns nowadays to help address low-performing wells. So we'll dig the hole for the cistern. We'll put the tank in. Okay. We leave it to water experts to do the connection, but putting the tank in is really no different than the septic tank.
Right, yeah.
And occasionally, if there's other similar, small excavation or dirt work required at the same time, we'll help folks out with that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. And the area that you serve?
It's pretty broad. I mean,
Anybody
yeah.
that's paying.
Yeah, well, usually typically I'll say about 60 minutes from Bragg Creek,
Okay.
but we'll go as high as Sundre. Like we just wrapped up a couple jobs in Canmore. We've done some work for Hutterite Colonies out by Drumheller, and then Longview's kind of our lower limit. I mean, if there was a case for it, I guess we'd go a little farther.
People, I imagine, are starving for contractors everywhere, not just around here.
Yeah. I mean, it seems there's a shift in the septic world as the code becomes more and more strict. The people who were just like general excavation contractors are not particularly interested in putting in a lot of the newer systems because they're so complicated. And so, there seems to be an increasing demand and all over Southern Alberta.
No, for sure. Exactly. So how's Rocky View to deal with when it comes to putting in septic?
The soils suck, but the county's actually not bad. And I'm probably the only contractor who will say, or we're the only industry that'll say that. I understand there's a lot of challenges getting permits approved.
Sure.
It is a bit of a wild card how long permits take to get approved, even for us. Okay. But generally, it's actually not too terrible. The inspections are super quick. They work with us reasonably well. But man, the soils, the Rocky View and Northern Foothills are just awful for putting in septic systems.
Is that right? Just because of the rocks and the trees and stuff?
Trees for sure, clay, heavy clay. Even though we don't necessarily have a lot of surface water, we have a pretty high water table in many places. And then lots of shale. As soon as you get into the hills, like your beautiful property or kind of anything to the west of Bragg Creek or even some parts of Bragg, you hit rock pretty quick.
Yeah, I can imagine. We're fortunate. Our septic field it's original.
Good.
So 94. We're like crossing our fingers that it's still working well, as far as I know.
Totally. Yeah, take care of it. Honestly, like unfortunately, actually, ours at home is starting to fail. These older systems, they're way simpler. There's less points of failure. They don't meet the expectations for kind of water treatment that are part of the code today. But you're allowed it. It's in there. So just baby that thing.
Baby that thing as long as you can. Yeah. So what are some warning signs that your system might be failing?
Right now we're experiencing a ton of rain, mid-July 25. If you've got a high level alarm, many systems do, some older systems don't. It'd be a good thing to put in if you don't have one. It's an early warning sign. But if you're seeing your alarm go off periodically, it's suggesting that your system's not able to get rid of liquid quickly enough. And really what a septic field does is we're adding water to the ground, right? The water that is part of your sewage, and the solids stay behind. So we're in times of heavy rain, like we're experiencing right now, the ground's already saturated or almost saturated. And so we're trying to force even more water on there.
Just backing up.
Totally. Yeah. And so if your field's not taking that water, that's maybe an early sign. But I wouldn't get too self-conscious right now because it's like...
this is unprecedented.
Totally.
We've been having for middle of summer.
Exactly. If you see hot spots, so if you're walking through the field and it's like really spongy, that's usually a sign that things are maybe getting a little tired there. So kind of have septic replacement on your radar for the next couple of years. It might not be imminent. Or if your tank is really degrading, though you can do a tank replacement without replacing the field. Okay. So if you're looking at your tank and the concrete looks super weathered, there's like pieces missing, that's usually no bueno. And the reason that's a concern, a lot of people are like, well, no one can see it, doesn't matter. But if it lets water in, then you're stressing your field even further.
Totally.
And you're getting sewage into the groundwater, which you don't.
Yeah. Now, as far as your septic tank goes, how often should somebody be pumping this thing out?
It depends. So on paper, it's 3 to 5 years. But what I would say for a system like yours, I would do it annually, because when you pump a tank, so I guess if we back up, there's 2 chambers to most septic tanks. The first one closest to the house takes all the sewage flow from the house. Then it separates out the solids. The solids remain in there. Liquids flow to the second chamber, and then liquids go out to the field, or some more modern systems will have a mound or an LFH, which is sort of a mulch mound in the trees. And that gets rid of liquids. The issue is, if you don't pump your tank out often enough, solids will make it into that second chamber and eventually will plug up that field mound LFH. Right. So with an older system, even though it does cost a bit to get your tank pumped out, a few $100s, it's well worth it because it's a cheap insurance policy. If you fill that old field with solids, then you're pooching, you're spending tens of thousands. Yeah. So I would take the approach of just being proactive, doing it annually if your system's more than like 10 years old, and newer ones, less of a concern. And as it ages, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're on schedule then for ours.
Yeah. You're doing great. Yeah.
Good stuff. So how did you guys arrive at coming to Bragg Creek? Your wife's a geologist.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So what made you guys decide to move here from Revelstoke?
Well, we love Revelstoke. I really love Revelstoke. Yeah, she's a geologist, so career opportunities were much better closer to Calgary or in Calgary, really. And she grew up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Edmonton, but again, like career opportunities for geologists way better
For sure.
in Calgary. So it made sense for us to move here. It was great. We had our fun in Revy, and then time to grow up.
Time to grow up.
I though didn't really want to live inside Calgary. Revelstoke's a wonderful small town. I still have this weird thing where even if I'm in the city, I see like a particular vehicle, and I'm like, oh my god, hey Greg. Oh no, that's one of 1,000 white Honda Accords, right? So I didn't really want to change that. So Bragg was appealing. In our time off, we love spending time outside, mountain biking, ski touring, etc. Not a ton of the latter, but great mountain biking around here, and the fat biking, cross country skiing.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, Bragg was appealing, and we're actually just a few minutes south of Bragg Creek, on the very north end of Foothills County. It's like 2 minutes south of Highway 66.
Yep.
Yeah, loving it.
Excellent. Right on. And you've been here
3 years and change.
Yeah, excellent. And you started Foothills from scratch.
Yes, that's right.
Hey, holy smokes. So, and now how big have you grown? How many employees do you have?
We're not particularly big. There's 3 people full-time plus myself. Yep. It's good. One guy is mostly a driver and then supports construction sites, vacuum truck driver. One guy is mostly an operator, but also does some service work. And then we've got a laborer who's quickly becoming pretty competent. Yeah, we've got 3 excavators, 2 skid steers, the vacuum truck, and just a bunch of trailers, 2 service trucks, which is bizarre with a crew that small, but
you need it.
You kind of need it. Yeah, and they're all busy except for one really ratty old small excavator, which I mentioned earlier. Sometimes it's building bike trails at our place. Sometimes it's used for septic designs. It's just a good backup to have. So
of course.
Yeah, it's shocking. It actually takes quite a bit to keep 3 people, not including myself, busy 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's the work volume is substantial.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, you found a great niche.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good. There was a pretty established business that went out of business last year in the area, and so that left a big void. And so we went from 1 employee to 3 employees. Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Cheers.
That's
excellent.
Thank you. Excellent. So what's it like doing business in and around Bragg Creek?
It's great. I come from a more white collar background, and I think most people here are also from that background. And
it's a pretty good mix. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's like I find people pretty relatable. We're all here for roughly the same reasons, right?
Yeah.
It's convenient being close to Calgary, but we don't particularly want to be in Calgary, and we love the mountains for different reasons. It's been good. Pretty reasonable people. It's a small community, so I think if you establish a name and if you treat people well, referrals come easily. And oftentimes, what one neighbor needs, the next neighbor needs the next year. And so, if you brand yourself reasonably well, they just sort of walk over.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, totally.
The best advertising.
It's great.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good. It's good. So, what's one thing that you'd like your customers to understand the most about the service that you provide? Is there some misconceptions people have?
I think my initial misconception getting into the business was that these septic contractors are making obscene amounts of money. Like, it's a good business, but it's really like at the end of the day, the margins are comparable to really any other construction. Building a septic system in Alberta is particularly expensive. Coming from, say, British Columbia, where most environmental regulations are a lot stricter than their comparable one or their equivalent one in Alberta.
Okay.
Not the case for septic systems. Alberta is, a leader as far as water treatment in Canada. But the unfortunate consequence of that is that there's a lot more involved in building a septic system. Right. And so on a $40,000 septic system, our material bill is like the better part of $30,000.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And then you've got like hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment operating on site.
Yes.
And that's one thing, because I'll be honest, sometimes really big houses, especially, I'll be a little embarrassed sending a quote, but we couldn't afford to do it for any less. So I think maybe gaining an appreciation of that. And most customers are pretty understanding. I think the world as a whole has gotten really expensive in recent years.
Of course, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Totally.
And that's kind of always what I had in mind. If we had to replace our septic field, it's going to be $50,000 at least.
I think so, yeah. It's treed properties, hilly properties, and Bragg Creek in particular, our soils are just challenging.
Yeah. It's like concrete out there.
Yeah,
it is.
Totally. So,
what's one of your proudest business moments?
It's actually, there have been a few, but right now we're actually dealing with one because of this heavy rain. So 2 nights ago, we spent the night pumping out the lift station in Alderside to prevent Alderside from being flooded.
Wow.
Yeah, overnight job. Yeah, and then we've been at the Redwood Meadows wastewater treatment plant for the last 2 days, pumping out tens of thousands of liters of water with the help of Dean Christian Hydrovac. They actually brought us in to support them just to prevent those 350 homes from getting sewage in their basement.
Jeepers.
It's building septic systems. Everyone needs to flush their toilet, but it is not something most people get excited about. It's just a necessary evil,
They
right?
just rely on it. They take it for granted.
Totally.
Right. Once you flush, it's gone. You never think about it again.
And that's probably a sign of a good system, right? That's good. And it's okay. Like I'm not expecting anyone to get excited about the system, but it is cool being able to have like a very direct impact.
Yeah. Essential service to the community.
Yeah, totally. Seeing that, like actually being part of a solution right away, seeing the impact right away is pretty cool. So feels good.
That's good. That's good. Here's maybe a side point to what you were just talking about. When you suck out a septic field or you suck out the redwoods system there, where does that go? Where do you take that stuff?
The only place we're legally allowed to get rid of it is Valley Field in Calgary. So Calgary, the city of Calgary has a treatment plant that accepts outside sewage.
Oh, okay.
And heaven forbid they close it, because there would literally be nowhere for us to get rid of it. It used to be that most of the small municipalities would allow outside sewage. So Cochrane, Turner Valley had one, or I guess Diamond Valley now, and Okotoks. But because of the growth that they've experienced, just like the boom in housing around here, they can no longer afford to treat any sewage beyond that of their residents. And so they're saying no to all new accounts. And being a relatively new company, we are forced to go to Calgary. And my understanding is that some of these small municipalities are also actually fully booting out some of their existing septic outfits.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so there's a couple, for lack of a better term, old boys that will just like spread the sewage on their property, which is not kosher.
Yes, not.
No, there's the odd times where in like proper weather conditions, you can spread a farmer's sewage on their hayfield if it gets tilled within, I think it's 48 hours.
Okay.
So once in a while, we can work something out with large landowners, but it's actually pretty limited. And that is a real risk to the business. If Calgary were to decide tomorrow, no, we're not taking sewage anymore, the septic pumping prices would skyrocket overnight, because you need a private facility.
Where do you go?
Totally. You'd have to make a deal with like Cargill or something who've got their own manure treatment plants.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a capacity there too.
Totally.
They could take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good golly.
It would be really cool if, I'm sure there's a future where Rocky View is eventually going to have to create some sewage treatment for Wintergreen and the Alcana estates and everything north of there. It would be really cool if we could dump acreage sewage into that future facility, or even the existing one. It would bring costs down so much. Probably 50% of dumping costs are just tipping costs. And then there's the trucking back and forth. It's like 45 liters per 100 kilometers on a big truck like that you got to pay someone to drive an hour, drive another hour back.
Maintenance,
Oh, yeah.
Adds up.
So, totally.
Good golly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
business.
Let's hope there's somebody on the council with foresight that's...
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
It's going to think about that. No, exactly.
Maybe they listen to your podcast.
Maybe. What lessons did you learn early on with your business that were valuable for you now looking back? I know you talked about, when you first started out, there was things cost more than you originally thought, but
big time. I mean, anybody starting a business will experience some version of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm totally stealing this term from someone else. I couldn't really attribute the exact concept, but being a harsh observer of reality.
Yeah.
I actually tested the business before I really started the business. So what I did is I used Squarespace to create a dummy website, and I called it, I think it was like Premier Septic or something like that. I spent like $500 in Google Ads just to see if people would call me. Is there a demand for septic in this general region? And lo and behold, I got a lot of calls. But obviously I couldn't do it.
Great idea.
Thank you. Yeah.
Proof of concept.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going for. And so at that point, I'd reached out to a couple operators, and we had one guy who was pumping out our septic system. And so I just referred folks off to these existing connections, because I certainly wasn't certified or really prepared to do any work. What I learned right away is that people don't really care about the septic system. And that's okay. Like, you shouldn't get worked up about that. But calling it premium septic is actually scary to most, because no one is excited about spending $50,000 on their septic system. What they want is a good, reliable system that will treat them well for years to come.
Premium sounds expensive.
Exactly. Totally. Right. And so budget is also scary, because then you're not quite sure if the work's getting done right.
Yes.
But that's a simple example. Or I mentioned kind of the sequence of events with growing the business. So starting with designs, and then it just turned into septic or service work rather. And I could have maybe just stayed myopic and said, all I do is design. Sorry, find someone else. But yeah, you know what? I'm not busy today. I have an excavator. I've got
good ancillary business.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
growing from there. And so observing what people, like what the client says and what they care about. Similarly, and this might actually tie back into an earlier question, I've learned that many people, they just want their septic system done. There's often a landscaping plan after, and you can discuss, hey, do you want us to reseed this area? But like, many people just want the sewage system sorted, and then they'll do the rest later. And I think we've had some luck being competitive on a pricing basis, where we just say, hey, this is the expectation. We will put a septic system in. You will have some landscaping to do afterwards. You can do it next year. You can do it 2 years from now. Like, do it tomorrow. I don't
Sure.
care, but that's on you. And I think that there are some companies out there that struggle being competitive on a price basis because they set certain expectations just for themselves around the cleanup aspect. And certainly we can do more cleanup. You can always do more, but if you set like this is the minimum that
Right.
we can do to build you a good quality system, and a lot of people don't mind just reseeding their lawn. And so why would they pay someone else?
Grass.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just adapting based on feedback and just being
Yeah.
observant.
Okay, that's good advice.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Have you partnered with anybody locally, like a landscaping company or anything like that, to kind of refer you can pass along to other local companies?
Yeah, there's the odd time where like mulching is required. Oftentimes we're involved when people save up a bunch of money, especially if it's a new system, not necessarily a build, but a renovation. There's a lot going on,
Yeah.
and they value our feedback because we see a lot of different folks. So sometimes they need tree clearing and
Sure.
refer Justin Walsh or Dennis from Beavertooth
Right.
to local businesses, or sometimes they, like I mentioned, we'll do a little bit of dirt work, but I wouldn't build someone an entire driveway. That's really not our bread and butter. And so
Right.
there's
Yes.
other folks, Bragg Creek Excavating, for example, that we can
Exactly.
refer. And then we'll bring in plumbers sometimes. For example, like there's one, as houses have grown, septic systems haven't always been taken into consideration.
Mhm.
And so there's one place that we'll be addressing pretty shortly here where they've actually built the garage over top the septic tank, which sort of kind of works. It hasn't crushed the tank. So kudos to whoever built that tank in the first place. But replacing the tank is impossible without undermining your garage, which
Right.
you can't do, right? So we're having to reroute the plumbing inside the house to then move the tank into a new location. I don't pretend to be a handyman. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician,
Sure.
nor are any of the people that I work with. And so we've got a few relationships there where we'll bring in a plumber and they'll do that aspect of things. Yeah.
So what's the ratio of new builds to replacing old fields?
I'd say
that you
it's
do?
probably close to 50-50.
Is it 50?
Yeah, I'd say 40% of our work would be new construction, system replacement. 40%, maybe down a little bit this year, more new builds and less system replacement.
Okay.
And then there's other work like tank replacements, where you're not necessarily replacing the field, but really just a tank repair. And then there's miscellaneous service work and pumping. But one thing I'm noticing this year, there are less system replacements and like dramatically less tank replacements, which are kind of discretionary items. Like
Sure.
you need a working septic system, but you could, if things are tight, as I think they are for many right
Absolutely,
now,
yeah.
you might deal with a tank that's rough but not like collapsed, or likewise a bit of a squishy lawn, right? And
Yep.
so I'm getting the sense, I could be totally off here, but I'm getting the sense people are being a little bit more cautious with their preventative maintenance
Yes.
right now.
More reactive than proactive.
Totally. Yeah, which will lead to, it's deferred maintenance, really, right? It's,
Exactly. Yeah.
Future
Pay
costs.
now or pay later.
Yeah, exactly. But I get it with, in times of uncertainty and all these new builds, kind of committed. You're not going to not build your septic system,
Totally.
let your house sit,
Yeah.
right? So really curious to see how that translates into what business looks like next
The
year.
future, yeah, exactly. Now, when it comes to new builds, how soon is a company like yours brought into the discussion?
It
when they're
varies.
designing?
Yeah,
Is it an afterthought, or is it, because people buy an acreage, they look at, oh, I want the house right here.
Yeah.
But, the septic field might be an issue if they're trying to plan around that.
Totally. It's there's no like set rule as to when we need to be involved, but usually it works in the customer's favor to involve us as early as possible.
Sure.
One, because there's a fair bit of lead time between digging test pits, getting soil analysis, getting the design done, then getting a permit for the system. Before you're done all that, you can't start building. But there's also just some efficiencies as builders, very confident in building houses, but many of them aren't necessarily great at planning out the septic layout.
Yes.
And if you don't take that into account, your septic system could end up far more expensive. We're actually dealing with that on a property near Cochrane right now, where the guy built the house and like, oh, shoot, I need to flush my toilets. And so he brought us in after the house was built. He's just got a sewage stub out there. And what could have been like a $35,000 system is creeping in on 50 just because of the way things were laid out. And so I think it does pay to get us involved. Unfortunately, he's got like 50 odd acres to play with. But on some of these smaller lots, like 2-3 acres,
Sure.
sometimes
There's only one spot you can put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You'd hate to see someone do all this work and then be forced to go on a holding tank as opposed to a septic system, which has much higher servicing costs.
Yeah, no, exactly. How valuable is it to have somebody local that knows kind of the lay of the land and the composition of the land?
I think, I mean, I'm obviously heavily biased here, but
Sure.
I think it's quite important to have someone who understands what they're going to encounter. Because if, say, you build in central Alberta on flat land, you might have completely different expectations. And so the expectations you set for the customer would not necessarily be accurate. You might not realize that you're going to run into this rock or that you're going to have really poor soils. And so the system will actually need to be larger to make up for the lack of infiltration area. And so I think there's a lot of value in some local knowledge.
Yeah,
And
I can see that.
yeah, and even just the seasonal stuff. Like Bragg Creek does not have the best building weather. Our winters are long, and even coming from Calgary to here, I think you'd have a couple surprises.
Is there anything people can do to keep their system healthy? I know for us, we put like a bag of organisms.
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly you call it. We throw it in there. We flush it down the toilet every month, and
Sure.
it kind of helps keep it healthy. Is that a good thing to do, or is that not?
I'm just from like conferences, and I don't pretend to have experience myself with those,
Okay.
but from conferences, experts, there are some people who, like academics, who've made their entire career wastewater analysis.
Sure. Yeah.
Primarily in the States, but they come up and they speak at conferences, and they've advised that that's actually not a great idea.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reason being that those overstimulate your sewage. They create like a sludge layer, a larger sludge layer and scum layer than you would otherwise have, and that leads to a higher risk of solids reaching that second chamber in your tank and eventually getting into your field.
Interesting.
Yes. So, I mean, once upon a time, people would throw dead chicken in their septic tank to start it, quote unquote, right?
It's like sourdough bread.
Yeah, exactly. It's your starter. Yeah, poor old Mickey. But totally not needed. Like your sewage has a ton of bacteria in it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That's what it is.
Totally. And as even like when you suck out a septic tank, you're not pressure washing it. There's still a bunch of stuff in there. You're taking out the solids, but it's far from actually clean, and that acts as a bit of a starter on its own as you flush wastewater in. And so, unless you were a super super heavy water user and very seldom flush your toilet, you would still have a ton of bacteria in there. And so,
doing its thing, yeah.
Yeah, I would certainly keep items like bleach, coffee grounds, and just anything but what goes into
Something
your toilet.
acidic and yeah, it will kill the bacteria.
Exactly. One thing that doesn't always come to mind for people, but it makes sense once you explain it, is some people will have a secondary port into their septic tank so that they can empty their RV's black water. And super efficient. What you have to be careful, though, if you do that, is you can't use the scent suppressors in your RV, because those scent suppressors effectively kill the bacteria, and that obviously has negative downstream effects. So totally kosher to do it if you're just using straight black water, but don't put those chemicals in there. Yeah.
Another question for you.
For sure.
You may have seen it in the news, Kirkland toilet paper.
Yeah.
I've done my own experiments on it. Is that a toilet paper people shouldn't be using if they have a septic tank?
I don't know. To be honest, I haven't been able to test. There's like for every 100 tanks that we pump out, there might be one or two that has some concerning stuff in there. Like we found really weird things like T-shirts and bricks. How'd you get that down your toilet? Impressive. But like flushable, quote unquote, flushable wipes, that's a no-go.
That's a no-go.
Yeah, they just don't degrade. Toilet paper, I don't know, maybe we're misidentifying it as flushable wipes when we get in there, but we haven't noticed any issues.
That goes with with the data I gathered in my experiments. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's just big toilet paper trying to put Kirkland out of business.
Right. Yeah. I laugh. So because people are saying this, like, I think I talked to somebody, one of these people that we bought this product from, that said, "Oh yeah, don't use Kirkland toilet paper." I'm like, okay, well, you look at a regular Royale roll versus a Kirkland roll, and the Kirkland roll is bigger.
Right.
So one sheet of Kirkland is probably 20% bigger than a regular sheet, something like that. So if you're using the same amount of sheets, there's probably more toilet paper going in there. But I actually took 2 pieces of each sheet, soaked it in water for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And stirred it up.
You're thorough.
I am. Because I was this can't be right. What's wrong? It's toilet paper. Like, what's wrong? It can't be that bad. And after 2 weeks, it was exactly the same consistency.
Oh, cool.
So I'm in my mind, I think it's a first.
Thanks for doing the tests we should be doing. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We do the work here on Bragg and Boat Business.
I like it. Yeah. Doing your research. That's awesome. Those flushable wipes are bad. Tampons, that kind of stuff. Yeah, no go. Figure-outs. But even like we typically make espresso at home, not like drip coffee, and we'll clean out the pad, or the pod rather, in our little compost bin. You still got to rinse it. I don't know if I'd lose too much sleep. One thing that's been contentious over the years is a grinder.
Carburetor.
So One of the measures of sewage strength is total suspended solids. And even though the carburetor cuts things up enough to pass through your pipes, they're still small solids.
Yeah.
And so in theory, that would increase the sewage strength of
Mhm.
your of the stuff in
More
your tank.
solids in your solid side. Yeah.
Exactly. So on a design basis, we need to account for that, and we make the system a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So generally, we advise people not to have carburetors. Is it going to kill your septic system? No. But if you're trying to be, well, if you're budget conscious, then it will make your system larger and therefore more expensive. You just kind of have to account for it. Adding a grinder to an existing system, you just have to realize that it'll strain it that much more. Other things to maybe keep in mind in that department, especially around here, we all have to treat our well water, right? We don't have particularly nice water, right?
Totally, yeah.
Whether it's an iron filter, RO, whatever.
Yep.
Those systems self-clean, and they use water to clean, and they have to dispose of that
Sure.
regenerated water. Having that go into a weeping tile or a French drain is critical, because if that goes into your septic system, as it does for many older homes,
Yep.
that's just that much more water that your system has to treat. And in fact, I've got a buddy in West Bragg who had a failing system, and he realized that he had his water treatment flushing back into his tank. And after rerouting them, his system basically appeared to come back to life. It
No
was as
kidding.
though, yeah, he had just like excessive occupancy in the house. But as soon as he cut the water going into the system, the soil was able to keep up all of a sudden.
Yeah, because that's probably 50, 60 liters on a regen.
Totally.
On a softener.
Yeah, and different ones have different cycles. If you can route that away from your tank, you'll buy yourself some life.
That makes sense. So yeah, obviously bleach, keep the solids to a minimum. Nothing that will not biodegrade and break down in your tank. What about like grease and oils and those kinds of things?
Bacon grease, no goes. Some fogs end up in your tank regardless. Fats, oils, grease. You wash a pan, like inevitably something will go in your tank.
There's always a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be maniacal about it, but again, if you can keep it out of your tank, it's that much better, because less risk of solids reaching your field and makes it easier. If when in doubt, be more cautious than not.
Yes, err on the side of caution for sure. With your business, I'm guessing you're probably very busy from spring to fall. Is in the winter, does it slow down some?
It's like more weather dependent than the fact it's winter, because houses are still being built in the winter, and oftentimes people want to put a system in, like they just kind of want to get it in ASAP.
Yep.
We found that come fall time, people freak out and they realize, oh my goodness, it's September. I need this thing done ASAP. And so usually September to like mid-November is our busiest season.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
flat out. And it's kind of surprising. You'd expect it to be early summer, but people are dilly-dallying and start the summer, and they think
Sure.
they've got forever until
Right.
Labor Day hits, and then they're in a panic. So inevitably that season, just we can't necessarily address all of the demand, and so systems that can be built in the winter, because some of them it's appropriate to build it in the winter, we tend to like push out, and kind of keeps us busy. Cold snaps, no bueno. So January is like a really slow month.
Sure.
Good month to catch up on equipment maintenance.
Go on vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Ideally both.
Yeah.
So and then tank pumping is year round. There's also a lot of service work comes up in the winter. People's systems freeze up.
Sure.
I've been surprised by how busy it's been in the winter. I've actually, it's good for employees, but for myself, I was kind of hoping, because summer can be just flat out too much almost, and so you want some downtime. And selfishly, that hasn't come in the winter, but happy to help people.
Well, it's good. Business is good.
Exactly.
You got to make hay with the sun shines. So where can listeners find you online?
Website, foothillsseptic.ca. You've got the Instagram handle, Foothills Septic. As we get busier, I'm less and less on top of posting regularly, but I should be better. Maybe I need to find someone to help there. We have a LinkedIn account where, much of the same stuff shared on Instagram ends up on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Google Business. We post updates regularly.
All the majors. All right.
Yeah, trying
Good
to
stuff. I got some personal questions for you.
Please hit me.
What's your favorite business in Bragg Creek?
Ooh, biased, but I really like the handlebar. Moritz is a friend, but I love what he's doing. I think it must be a challenging business to run. Hospitality is hard, and guiding is seasonal. But if I could do anything just out of pure passion, I would probably do exactly what he's doing, making great food, great coffee, hanging out with awesome people, renting bikes, going and spending time outdoors. I love it. I think it's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, big fan.
Good stuff. Second favorite?
Bragg Creek Foods. And
right?
Like, it's critical. And groceries they're not cheap, and they're a little more expensive there, understandably. But what a lifesaver. So even when sometimes it's more convenient for us to hit a grocery store in Calgary, but I'll go out of my way to go to Bragg Creek Foods because, exactly, right? Like, just out of principle local, but I also want them to be there. And so if I pay 50 cents more for my avocado, so be it.
Exactly.
The day I need a jug of milk, hopefully it means that they'll be there, right?
Yeah,
and so, and they just, they're so busy with all the parcels, and
they provide a lot of other services too that are
all essential.
Yeah.
Totally.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Pro cyclist. Yeah, I grew up racing bikes. My goal was to race at the top level, Tour de France right now. I made Team Canada, raced World Champs in 2012, but a couple days before, just had a bad batch of, I think it was lasagna or something.
No way.
Yeah, in Belgium. Stomach flu, was like absolutely wrecked, had a horrible performance, and it really opened my eyes because I had aligned myself, well, I guess on two fronts. I was like a high 90s student, wanted to go into engineering and then race bikes. We kind of simultaneously do both. Engineering is a backup, but training and competing and traveling at the level required to be at on a national team, you really do have to compromise school, unfortunately, if you're doing it in high school.
Of course.
And so I went from being like a 90 student to like a 60 student in grade 12, and there went my chances to go into engineering school. Business school is happy to take me, but
obviously you're doing well.
Cheers.
It might be a better choice. Yeah.
And in hindsight, actually, it probably was a really good fit. But it really opened my eyes to the risk that you take as a professional athlete. You can do everything right, and not that I was pro at that point in time. You can do everything right, and you just get unlucky, and the single race that you've been training for like possibly your entire life,
right.
or at least that whole season, just wiped. And a big part of an athlete's compensation is tied around performance. There's certainly a base, but you're really hardly feeding yourself off of that base. It kind of made me reconsider things. I realized that it'd be pretty hard to build a life without taking an obscene amount of uncalculated risk as an athlete.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a bike racer and went more the business route. And I used to be in commercial real estate. That's where I started right after high school. Yeah. I was an analyst in commercial real estate development. I loved many aspects of it, but I didn't love many finance people, at least like at work. Yeah. I didn't really want to be part of the Wolf of Wall Street. And I was fascinated by construction. I just loved buildings coming up. It was so cool. And I think there's a real sense of like stewardship with building our built environment or being a part of it even. So one of the things that makes us stand out as a species, right? Like we have these incredible buildings that we live in, work in, fix each other in, etc. And so inevitably that kind of led me down the route of construction, maybe back to the engineering aspirations away from business. And now I'm back in business and construction, I guess.
You're back in business construction, right on. What did your parents want you to be?
They were pretty easy. Both my parents were university profs, and so in the arts too. So actually they are, I'm not going to get political, but they are super far left on the spectrum, and I'm like maybe more right, not, maybe more in the center. And I think at first they were actually appalled by their little capitalist son, and gradually they.
Who did we raise?
Yeah, exactly. Is this even ours?
Yeah.
But I think eventually they've come to appreciate what I think capitalism can offer people, like customers and yourself. Sure. They were maybe surprised. They were also a little jaded. I don't know if you've met many academics that are like thrilled about the politics at universities. So yeah. I think they were happy to not have me be an academic, but as long as I tried to be the best or very good at what I was doing, they were supportive, and I'm grateful for that.
Excellent. What was your first job?
I was selling fitness equipment at Fitness Town. I just walked in, asked, hey, I need a job. I don't really know anything about gym stuff, but I'm pretty active, so you think you'd take me? Though I used to make most of my money to support my bike racing, buying and selling cars throughout high school.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, thanks. In the early days of Kijiji, there was a ton of arbitrage opportunities to be made.
Absolutely.
So, flipping cars.
Cool.
So,
nice. I did that. I participated in the same thing. My dad he sold cars too. So
cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
I was in that.
It's tough though, but with Facebook Marketplace nowadays, the market is so efficient. There's not really much for deals anymore. So probably good for the average person.
Yeah. Well, I used to go to the auctions all the time.
Oh, cool.
And even now it's like, you're paying that for that car? You crazy?
I've seen some stuff go like above market at auction recently, which is surprising.
Yeah. So much competition now at the auctions. Yeah. It's a challenge. Who's your favorite job? Or maybe this is it.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. There's challenging days for sure. And I think that's just the nature of owning a business. This or the job I had as an analyst in commercial real estate, I really liked. I was lucky to have just a phenomenal manager and mentor.
Yeah. Great
team, great company. It was awesome. Not like my forever job. I kind of knew that I wouldn't want to do that forever, but I was super lucky to work there.
What was your worst job?
Oh, geez. I worked at a poutine shop for a couple weeks, really, like right out of high school.
Is that right?
Yeah. And just, when in hindsight, I can say it wasn't a fit at the time. I just didn't have the lived experience to say that.
Sure.
But one day I asked, like 2 weeks in, I asked for like a day off, a week out or something to go on a trip with a buddy, I think to Calgary. And then the manager called halfway through after approving the day off. fired me for taking the day off. But she didn't really fire me. She just sort of like broke up with me. It was bizarre. She's like, I don't think this is going to work out, Sam. It sounds good. No worries. So
Sounds like she'd said that before.
yeah. So yeah, they're still selling great poutines, just not a good environment.
Yeah. No, I get you. What was your favorite subject in school?
In high school, I liked social studies and I liked physics, even though I wasn't particularly good at it. I just liked thinking from the lens of physics.
Sure.
And in university, it was definitely business law. Loved it.
Business law.
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever want to be a lawyer, but I really appreciated looking at the world from that perspective.
Yeah, that framework.
And it's actually super valuable in business too.
Especially now.
Yeah. Sometimes dangerous, actually, especially with AI. I had a lawyer friend look over a contract of ours, and she just had a field day with me. She's like, what are you doing? Like drafting your own contracts? Get out of here.
Is that right?
Yeah. So maybe I should have spent more time in class.
Well, thanks very much, Sam.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Anything special coming up that you want to bring out?
I would just say to anybody who's listening, who's thinking about getting work done on their septic system, especially if you need a new system and you're thinking about it, best to address it before winter. A few things like septic designs can't be done in the winter. And whereas we can build the system in the winter, there's some lead time required. And so don't be a stranger. I don't know if it makes me a bad business person sometimes, but like I'm just happy to have a chat on the phone. If you're having issues, like I'll tell you if I'm busy and I'll just call you back 2 hours later when I'm sorted. But if you got questions, reach out. And if you want something done in the near term, I would get ahead of the fall rush if I were you. It'll just we'll be able to serve you a lot better and on a more timely basis.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice. Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on Bragging About Business. Good luck with the rest of the season and the future as well.
Right on. Thanks for having me, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
You betcha.
Cheers.
Thank you, Sam. He is such a genuine guy and a real pleasure to do business with and have in our community. Check out his website at foothillsseptic.ca, which has a ton of great tips and information on caring for your septic system. Next week, after a slight schedule change, we welcome entrepreneur and first responder Lori Peterson of Changel to the studio to talk about her charitable endeavor to help raise mental health awareness and treatment. Be sure to check that out. Have a great week.